Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Warhammer 40,000 Metawatch. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Alright, so we knew it was coming, and it is officially here. Warhammer 40,000 Metawatch, points changes inbound in the latest Munitorum Field Manual. So it is just points changes, and then in the summer, when we get the next one, we'll get the balanced status slate as well as the Munitorum Field Manual, so rules and points adjustments. With the Clandestine Dark Angels, Indomitable Adeptus Custodes, and Belligerent Orcs all receiving new codexes in recent weeks, it's time for a new balance update from the Warhammer Studio. And it is worth note that the Tau did not make it in this balanced data slate, so because the codex is not officially for sale yet, they're saying that there's going to be a day one update in the points when it does come up for sale, so in the next few weeks. This quarter, we've got a new Munitorum Field Manual update with the balancing point values across the game to help you with both internal faction balance and win rates across the board. Check out what Josh has to say in video form before we cover the most important changes in a sequence of sentences and paragraphs below. So I did watch the video. There's not a ton there, but they're basically going to discuss specifically like AdMech and Necrons, and then a little bit about Blood Angels. The first key point is the Warhammer Studio aims to release the Munitorum Field Manual update every quarter and a balanced data slate every other quarter. This isn't a fixed schedule. The start of the edition saw 2 data slates in a row to help adjust factions in the new game. And I think that was a great idea. They basically improvised in order to make sure the game was more balanced right out of the gate. Amongst the most important changes are points adjustments to slow the inexorable advance of the Necrons. Combos frequently appearing in the competitive play have been tuned, with increases for Catan Shards, several varieties of Cryptek, including Illuminor Caesarius himself, and Immortals. Units which have less play are enjoying slight decreases, particularly those common to detachments outside of Hypercrypt Legion and Canoptic Court. Points across the Adeptus Mechanicus have dropped, but the Warhammer Studio are also testing a selection of rules changes to launch to the next balanced data slate that should tune up the Machine Cult's legions and give them a shot in the cybernetic arm. And they basically addressed that and said they don't want to just keep cutting the points because it's going to turn into a massive horde army, which in my opinion makes total sense. And some of the points adjustments they did get are insane. The points for the Adeptus Custodes and Orcs now have updated points and their codexes hit store shelves on Saturday. This might be different from what is printed in the books, so you can be sure they're fully up to date with the latest balance update. The Tau Empire points still match their index values ahead of the widespread release of their new codex, which is available for pre-order on Saturday. You'll see a Munitorum Field Manual update where the codex appears in stores and everyone has access to the rules. And they did say specifically it would be a day one update, so the day the codex is launched, they'll get the new points. Space Marines have seen a number of internal balance changes and more tweaks to specific chapters. The Dark Angels have received a range of points decreases to make a great variety of units viable, while the Blood Angels Death Companies have been tweaked to better reflect their typical loadouts. The Sanguinary Guard are getting a cost decrease to see the iconic unit return to play. After somehow eluding strict Imperial inspectors in the past, the Black Templars also need to pay points for their multi-meltas they've been bolting on to all their tanks. Okay, so a little bit to address here. So the Dark Angels got the points decreases that I've been saying that they were going to get, and a lot of their units now are in line with what they should have been, including a massive decrease in points for the Lion, the Deathwing Knights, and then also the Companions as well, coming in line with the Blade Guard. So much more viable now. Blood Angels did get some increases to the Death Company because you can kit out every guy in the squad with extremely efficient loadouts, and then finally the Sanguinary Guard have gotten enough of a points drop that they're actually viable. And then last but not least, the way this is worded for the Black Templars is kind of weird because they already were paying points for the multi-meltas, but instead of paying 5 points apiece for the multi-meltas now, they're paying 10 points. Genestealer Cults, Adeptus Sororitas, and Astra Militarum have received some targeted changes to units that are appearing frequently in top lists, while other changes made to increase the viability of less popular units or builds. Chaos Space Marines likewise have an internal balance as their focus for changes. Some factions like Demons, Chaos Knights, Imperial Knights, and Death Guard have either had very few or no changes at all, and every other faction has received minor tweaks to internal balance. You can see all the points changes in the Munitorum Field Manual, which can be downloaded below. So I'll have that link down in the video. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. Alright, so this part can get a little bit extensive if we go in too deep here, so I am going to try to keep this relatively quick, relatively short and sweet. So the main thing we see changes-wise for the Adeptus Sororitas is a couple of increases and a couple of decreases. The main actual changes that we see though are on the smaller units like 3 arcoflagellants. That went up by 5 points, but on the 10 unit, it only went up by 10 points. Same thing on the Crusaders. 2 models went up from 25 to 35 points, but we see no changes to 4 models and 6 models. Death Cult Assassins, same thing, only went up in 2s by 10 points. So it's very clear that they want to cut people out from taking like a bunch of the small units because you're just getting too many pieces to play with. And then the Triumph also went up by 15 points as well. And the Blade of St. Elenir went up by 10 points. And then we see some other decreases. All right, and then next we have the Adeptus Custodes, and this is going off of the points that are printed in the codex. So it looks like everything went down in points, but in all actuality, that's not the case. Most of this stuff is still the same points as it was previously in the index. It's just now in the codex. And another change they made is that now it specifically says codex in front of Adeptus Custodes instead of being like nothing. And then some of them will say index as well, so you know what these changes are relative to. But for the most part, we didn't see like crazy changes here. Actually, overall, a couple of decreases, but nothing too substantial. But obviously, all of the points in the new book are wrong because these are all changes to them. Okay, AdMech got a few decreases, nothing too crazy, but the stuff that did went down by a lot. So Belisarius Cole was 180 and went down to 150. So almost every AdMech list is going to be taking call. So 30 points off is a big deal. Castellan Robots went down by 20 per 2. Cataphren Destroyers went down by 10 per 3. And then we see some other small changes as well. Eldari overall seem like they're like finding a decent balance right here. We see a couple of minor changes, points going down on some stuff like Striking Scorpions and Guardians. We see Fugan going up by quite a bit here. He was 115, he went up to 130. We see Swooping Hawks going from 75 per 5 up to 80 per 5. We see another increase on support weapons from 125 to 135. And then also on Shadow Specters going up by 10 points for 5 from 95 to 105. And then last but not least, the Phoenix Gem going up by 10 points. So it looks like they have almost found the balance for Eldari. A couple of notable changes to the Index Agents of the Imperium. So Kalidas Assassin going up by another 10, so up to 100 points at this point in time. Still very, very good. Inquisitorial Henchman for 4, it used to be 40 points, and now it's 50. That is very important because for the Imperium, for a lot of like Space Marine armies, the cheapest unit you could possibly take was 40 points, and that was the Inquisitorial Acolytes, and now it's 50. So that changes it and actually makes it so the Blade Guard Ancient is now the cheapest model at 45 points. So we're likely to actually see more of those because when it comes to tweaking your list, that can often be an issue. And then finally, we see Lord Inquisitor Kyria Draxus, 85 points, so up by 10. So nothing too crazy here. Kalidas Assassin, very prevalent. So a lot of lists going to be going up by 10 points there for Imperial lists. And then, of course, those henchmen, a lot of people were taking that because it was the 40-point cheapest unit you could take. And now at 50 points, I think we probably are going to see a lot less of those. Although still for a 5-point difference, they have a much bigger footprint than that Blade Guard Ancient is going to have. But I really do think we'll see a lot more Blade Guard Ancients now because for Space Marines, that's the cheapest unit you can take. Okay, so quite a bit of changes to the Astra Militarum. Overall, going to increase the balance, I think. The most notable things are the Basilisk went up by 15 points to 150. The Bulgrin went up by 10 points per 3 to 90 points. And then the Manicore went up again from 180 to 190. So in the last 2 data slates, it has gone from, I think, 150 to 190. So up by 40 points. Rightfully so. And then the Kasserkin, very big deal right here, went up from 100 points to 120. So a 20% increase for them. And then we saw a lot of like the other artillery, a lot of the other vehicles go down in points, specifically all the Leman Russ variants, and then a couple points on the Scions as well. All right, and then Black Templars. So all 3 of the Lancer variants up by 5 points. So they're now all 10 points more than the standard Lancer. And then the Impulsor up by 5 points again. So again, 10 points more than the standard Impulsor. And then we see the Crusader squad, the standard one, going up in points on the smaller end. Going up in points on the 5-man squad from 75 to 85, but no changes on the larger squads. And then we see the Primaris Sword Brethren going up by 10 points and 20 points respectively. So nothing too crazy right here, but the Black Templars are paying a little bit more for those multi-meltas. All right, and then Blood Angels. So we see Librarian Mephiston getting a 10-point cut, still probably a little bit overcosted. We see the Death Company Intercessors coming down a bit, Death Company Dreadnought coming down a bit, and the Sanguinary Guard is a big change, 175 down to 155. So saving 20 on 5 or 40 on 10. And then as far as increases, we see both the regular and jump priests going up by 10 points. We see Lamardis going up by 10 points. Makes sense because those are very, very good. And then we see the Death Company Marines without the jump packs going up by 10 points and 20 respectively. And then we see with the jump packs going up by 10 points and 20 points respectively. So I think these are pretty good changes, especially with a recent change to the actual Blood Angel rules and like the prevalence of some of these units. As always, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the channel. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I think they did a pretty good job. And I'm out of here.